On the march. Never climb to join battle on high ground. In the matter of sitting your camp and observing the movements of the enemy, pass by the mountains and stay within the valleys, but choose an elevated spot for your camp facing east. Never climb to join a battle on high ground. That is what you need to know about mountain terrain. Once you have crossed a river, move well away from it. If the enemy crosses a river offering combat, never try to meet them midstream. You can seize the advantage by letting half their forces across and then attacking. However eager you are for battle, do not attack the enemy as they approach a river. Choose an elevated spot facing east to wait for them, and never attack upstream. This is how to fight around rivers. Oh, hello. I didn't see you guys come in. Neither did my camera. No colors today. Beautiful. Welcome to Bitcoin Talk Show. My name's Thomas Hunt. We were just reading a little bit of The Art of War Illustrated by Sun Tzu. Picked this up at Barnes & Noble on discount. Nicely bound, really big pages. And as far as illustrations, we're mainly talking Chinese characters. Can you see that? My camera is messed up today. Well, there's some Chinese characters, maybe. And the other illustrations are some battle maps, good. Pictures of war and tanks being blown up, bad. But in general, it's a really nicely presented and large print, large everything. We're also joined by Dan while I try to fix my camera. How's it going, Dan?
Hey, Thomas, going great, thanks. Welcome to 2019 as well. Happy New Year.
2019, we made it. So what's going on in 2019 for the Crypto Raptor? In 2018, you had the song with Hotel California, Hotel Polynexia. You had a couple of raps. Anything planned for the new year? You don't have to give details, but maybe just a little preview, let the people know.
Well, I squeezed in a nodal wrap because I was so excited about getting my nodal lightning node towards the end of 2018. But also actually coming up tomorrow, there's going to be something that I've been a contributor to, which is a particular song that's very cheesy, extremely cheesy, as you know as well.
Well, I've heard of that, and hopefully I'll be included and I won't embarrass myself too much. I had to do 3 or 4 more takes, and I had to try to time it up. And it really is funny when you actually want to record something for a song or part of a song, how much detail there is in it. When you're singing along with the radio, it's like, la, 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 la. But when you actually record it, it's like, well, you need to be on time because the other people sang it in a certain time and your time doesn't match. And then you're focused on the time and you lose the pitch. And then you're focused on the pitch and you lose the words. And then you have to have emotion in it. There's a lot there. So we'll see if we make giant asses of ourselves on the internet with that.
And then when you finally make it look or make it sound okay, you go back and watch it and you're like, oh my word, why am I pulling that face? Or, you know, there was literally, my face was contorting in ways I didn't know it could when I watched it back. I was like, right, okay, back to the drawing board, re-sing, redo. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a cool but very cheesy way of celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the Genesis block.
Well, and Jim Morrison of The Doors famously started singing with his back to the audience. He was so shy he couldn't face them, and they'd actually do club gigs with him facing the drummer, singing passionately. And you know, when you sing, your voice, your mouth, everything, your face, everything goes. And certainly, I haven't seen it yet, but I want to see that Bohemian Rhapsody with Rami Malek from Mr. Robot. And he has to do the Freddie Mercury thing. And you know, you and I sang in this little goofy Bitcoin song. He's in a big movie and he's playing Freddie Mercury and he has to do it just right, and the expressions and his face. Yeah. And I remember we were watching the Andy Kaufman Elvis thing from Johnny Carson, and the way that Andy could just move himself like Elvis, and then to see this Rami Malek move himself like Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody is just truly amazing. Like what they can do beyond just the singing, beyond just the acting, bring it all together. It's a much more difficult skill than I think people think.
Yeah, especially with you know, Freddie Mercury, such a showman as well. You know, he's when he talks, his idiolect's like really unique, and his choice of words, and yeah, it's just really. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Actually, I don't know if you saw The Doors, the sort of film with I I think I can't remember who had it, like not Christian Slater, Val Kilmer or something like that.
Val Kilmer, that's right, the
Val Kilmer?
Iceman. Yeah, it's directed by Oliver Stone. So I once bought the Oliver Stone DVD box set, and back in those days, you didn't have very many movies. You didn't have the streaming world. So if you bought a box set of 10 movies, you probably watched them 3 times. So yeah, I've seen The Doors. I love that movie. It's really good. I think a lot of people, they didn't like it in the time. They weren't ready for Val Kilmer, or maybe it was too soon to have him play The Doors. And it's very romanticized. I think a lot of Jim Morrison being a drunken buffoon was like left out of that. But the parts they had, they made him seem like a dreamy, amazing poet, that kind of thing. But it looks like we are starting to gather an audience, so we should go ahead and start the Bitcoin Talk Show. We have about 53 viewers. If everyone could give us a thumbs up and a share, that'll help more people find the show, and it's free. Be sure to subscribe down below, the World Crypto Network. I know all the YouTube people say this, but that's what you have to say. You say like, subscribe, donate, these kind of things. Share, make the magic happen. But let's see what's happening today in Bitcoin. Today is Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019. It's time to stop writing 2018 on your checks. What's a check? The price of Bitcoin is up 0.62% in the last 24 hours, with a last of 3,860, a high of 3,910, and a low of 3,705. That's actually interesting. I've seen on Bitstamp, they had a spike to 4,449, something like that, a very high spike. We're not seeing it here on Bitcoin average, where it's either been averaged out, or perhaps it was an error or something wrong with the tracking app on my phone. Keeping an eye on the price of Bitcoin in Satoshis, $1 will get you 25,680 Satoshis. That's quite a lot. Previously, we were looking at 15,000 Satoshis in the $6,000 range. And before that, of course, 3 times that, which was around 5,000 Satoshis back in the good old $18,000 range. So we're going in the wrong way. Wrong direction still. Our top story today, Bitcoin exchange HitBTC freezes customers' accounts ahead of proof of keys event. And many of the proof of keys people are taking this as a huge success. We're seeing this as a win. I'm not so sure. Let's keep an eye on this. First, let's go ahead and define what is proof of keys. Proof of keys, tomorrow is the launch of the Bitcoin mainnet. The 10th anniversary. Previously, about 3 months ago in October, we celebrated the 10-year anniversary of the Bitcoin white paper, which announced it to everyone. I remember reading about it on Slashdot and being kind of impressed, but really, show me the software. And then in a shocking move about 2-3 months later, Satoshi showed us the software and Bitcoin became a real thing. I think this took a lot of people by surprise. People weren't ready for it. Also, for it to still be running today, for this to be the original Bitcoin network, that they didn't have to say whoopsie and start it over 3 or 4 times, is a testament to how much pre-thought and pre-work went into this. When we talk about Prometheus and Epimetheus, his brother, Epimetheus meant forethought. Prometheus meant afterthought. So he didn't think about what he was doing. He brought the fire to the man, whereas Epimetheus, his brother, was like, I don't think you should do that. Satoshi is that I don't think you should do that guy. He learns from the example of Prometheus. He doesn't want to get strung up on a rock, have his liver ripped out. So he designs it in an invisible way, and he gives man fire without even being there. That's forethought. So in the same way, the proof of keys people, they've seen this incredible holiday and they're going to celebrate it by asking people to remove their Bitcoin from exchanges and to hold your own private keys. And certainly we're big supporters of the ideas that you should hold your own private keys. Been saying it for years, going to keep saying it. It is one of the magical things about Bitcoin that, like cash, you get to be responsible. The $20 in your wallet, if you drop it on the street, it's gone. The $20 in Bitcoin in your wallet, if you drop your password or your passphrase on the street somewhere, it's gone. I agree with that. Now, this idea that everyone should take all of their money off and to include everyone, I'm not so sure. If you're not ready to take your money off, you just got your Trezor or Ledger, you don't know much about it, maybe take $100 off. I agree with this idea. Let's test our private wallets, but I'm not whole hog into this. Everyone everywhere should take an enormous risk, take all their money off the exchange. that does seem to be what the proof of keys people in some situations are advocating. I'm not going to blanket here, but what we're really talking about is a bank run. Some of the proof of keys people are more radical, and they say they don't like a fractional reserve banking system. So let's say that one of the Bitcoin exchanges doesn't have the amount of Bitcoin they say they do. People deposited 100 Bitcoins in there, but they say they have 150 because they sold 50 more, and they're just hoping that you don't come and take out all the Bitcoin at the same time. There's clearly two sides to this argument. One side says we shouldn't be running around wrecking the Bitcoin infrastructure, right? We don't have very good infrastructure right now. People are trying hard. They're new to this. They're just getting started. In the case of this HitBTC, for all we know, they're getting their cold storage ready to let people withdraw their money, and that they're moving funds from cold storage, and it will take a couple of days, so on and so forth. The other side of this argument says we should wreck these people. If you're holding fractional reserve Bitcoin, you're a bad player, and you're going to explode at some point. So you may as well explode right now, and we should do it to you. So having defined this pretty fairly, I think, on both sides, saying that I do think there's valid points on both sides. I do support holding your own keys. Let's get into this some more. Dan, what do you think about proof of keys? Do you think that, we should test it out? We should do it all the way. We should have bank runs. We should take these people down. What do you think?
I'm actually sat on the fence now, and that's terrible to say, but because I think conceptually it sounds like a great idea. We want to be in an environment where there isn't fractional reserve Bitcoin. We want to know that the exchanges are holding all the Bitcoin they say they are, and it's great for the community if that's actually the case. But I think there's a certain number of risks and I associated. Now, I'm not going to lie, I don't think that many exchanges are hugely trustworthy still, and so I think that from a conceptual level it's a good idea to test these exchanges. But what we could see is, aside from noobs losing money, even if it's small amounts, as Jeremy said in the chat, the main things that it could cause an avalanche, dare I say, a ripple effect, where one goes down, then suddenly, imagine if there's some sort of inter-exchange lending going on or something along those lines, and it could cause an issue, and that's what kind of worries me, is the lack of trustworthy infrastructure that we have now. And I know that's the whole point of testing the proof of keys. But yeah, I'm just worried about the net effect of and collateral damage if one was to go down.
That is definitely a problem in bank runs. As the Wikipedia article shows, first you have a bank run, then you have a banking panic, or a bank panic, a financial crisis that occurs when many banks suffer runs at the same time, as people suddenly try to convert their threatened deposits into cash, or to get out of the domestic banking system altogether. A systemic banking crisis is one where almost all of the banking capital in a country is wiped out. So this can be quite a problem, and we're going to risk our copyright here, and we're going to play a little bit of It's a Wonderful Life. Let me see if I can boost the volume here, because I do think this is a pretty valid clip. We're going to play just a couple minutes. In the use of fair use, we are going to discuss this and pause it often and talk over it. So let's see what It's a Wonderful Life, the movie, says about bank runs.
The bank, George. I've never really seen one, but that's got all the earmarks of being a run.
Just remember that this thing isn't as black as it appeared. I have some news for you, folks. I was just talking to old man Potter, and he's guaranteed cash payments to the bank. The bank's going to reopen next week.
But, George, I got my money here. Did he guarantee this place?
Well, no, Charlie, I didn't even ask him. We don't need Potter over here.
I'll take mine now.
No, but you're thinking of this place all wrong, as if I had the money back in a safe. The money's not here. Well, your money's in Joe's house. That's right next to yours. And in the...
Your money's in Joe's house. Remember that right here, he's running a savings and loan. So he's not running a bank. He's running an institution where people put their savings in, they loan it out, they let other people build houses. That money comes back. This is a capital system. Now, I don't want to horrify you, but when you put your money to an exchange, like, for example, allegedly HitBTC, or certainly, to go back in time, BTC-E, or other exchanges, perhaps located in China, they took your money and they didn't just hold it for you. They invested it in the market, right? They were out there in the Bitcoin market or in the bond market or one of these safe markets trying to get a couple extra interest percentages off of your money. So yes, these exchanges might be investing your money. Your money would be in Joe's house and they wouldn't be able to get it back for you. Causing a run could destroy these institutions. Now, the question is, are the Bitcoin exchanges predatory, or are they friendly, like George Bailey's Savings and Loan? Of course, in the movie, George Bailey's Savings and Loan, is the hero of the community. As he goes on here in a couple lines, he starts describing how, do you want to live in one of those Potter houses? They fall apart. They're terrible. You had one of those houses. They're terrible. And, Mr. in the dark version of the future, when the savings and loan goes out of business, they do have to live in Potter houses. They do have no choice, and it's run down. And he talks about how his savings alone allows them to skip payments or to pay back later. There's all this humanity in the savings and loan that we don't see in the banks. So it is interesting to see what happens with these bank runs. They survive the bank run in the movie, at least the savings and loan does, by only putting out small amounts of money. Now, we're seeing responses in the chat. People are saying that they were able to withdraw their funds from HitBTC. So it might not be as bad as people are saying. Additionally, as the article here even posits, they might have frozen the accounts to get the cold storage ready, right? They might have frozen the accounts as preparation to withdraw their funds from cold storage, which is actually what we want. If there was one of these exchanges and they're like, yeah, we're ready, we keep all of our money in a hot wallet, that's a whole separate problem. Like, if you can withdraw all the money in the exchange, it is a problem. So what do you guys think in the chat? Let us know. We're also going to open up the phone call lines here because this is Proof of Keys. This is the World Crypto Network. We want to hear your opinion. So you can Skype us now at World Crypto Network, all one word, or call us at 1-518-600-1949. And remember, of course, the South Park parody of It's a Wonderful Life from the Merry Christmas Charlie Manson episode. He said, "Oh, why, Mr. Potter, do you know what you are? You are a little bitch. And I bet you'd like to suck it like one." So down with Mr. Potter, up with George Bailey's Savings and Loan. What do you think, Dan? Should we cause a bank run? Should we destroy the Bitcoin infrastructure? Or if the Bitcoin infrastructure is no good, yes, we should destroy it all.
Well, again, I think it doesn't test the Bitcoin infrastructure. It tests people's extensions of the Bitcoin infrastructure, right? So, it's the same thing when, say, people say, "Oh, Bitcoin was hacked," and I'm like, Bitcoin wasn't hacked. It's never been hacked. What was hacked was incompetent exchanges or an incompetent person like me. I've been hacked before, but who didn't secure their stuff down properly, and that's what the issue is. But it's easy, to kind of to think about it as the unit as a whole. But I haven't actually seen the one. It's a Wonderful Life, but my mortgage was actually
blasphemy.
Oh, that's terrible. I think I'm getting a look as if I'm going to need to see it soon. But I do think what reminded me of that situation, the bank run, was that I was with Northern Rock in 2007, 2008. So I was following that very closely, and it wasn't until the night before that the kind of Northern Rock bank run happened, when an economist went online and basically said, "Prove your funds, get them out," and caused a bank run. Bang, that was it. That's it. Northern Rock dead. Until Virgin took them over. But it is, that's the kind of thing. I think that economist may have been calling the bluff, but unfortunately, and this is where I'm thinking, I'm worried about the exchange infrastructure. That bluff, there's going to be a lot of issues if it does work out, but that they're not holding.
Well, and that's the problem of unintended consequences. People want to test the infrastructure. They want to do the right thing and hold their own keys. I agree with all of that. But the problem of testing the infrastructure is if you do it too well. This could be, remember back when WikiLeaks first wanted to accept Bitcoin. And Satoshi himself got on the email and said,
Yeah.
please don't accept
Too
Bitcoin.
early.
We're not ready yet. It's too early. You'll swamp us, right? And maybe Bitcoin's too early for a fractional exchange test like this. Maybe just asking them to prove their exchange. I know we had these ideas years ago where we could say you could have a provable source of reserves, and I could click through a bunch of blockchain.info things, and I could get through and I could see all your accounts. And yes, banks wouldn't like to do this, but this is crypto and we're different. We could do this. And it's Bitcoin and everything, but we didn't. No one did that. Kraken talked about it. They got pretty close. I think Coinbase never talked about it. Other people never talked about it. But you can prove, like if I show my Tallycoin fundraiser here, I can prove, I have $500 or I have $740 in Tallycoin. And the reason that you can prove is because you can look at my Bitcoin address and you can look at the account and you can see, well, that's what he has. That's what the fundraiser has done, right? I'm small. I have, $700. I can do this. They have tons of money. They probably don't want to do this. It probably weakens their security in some ways just to describe the process. But then there's other ways where, people smarter than me, cryptography people or whatever, can get in there and obfuscate it. And they could show me a version that checks out on the numbers, but I can't see where it actually is. It doesn't expose their security. There seems to be possibilities and opportunities. So I'm in favor of that. I think we should have transparent exchanges. But I think we should, as hard as it is, and I love being a revolutionary and I love burning things down. I went to Burning Man to see big fires, that kind of thing, right? If we burn down all the Bitcoin exchanges, all the news headlines will be bad. It's going to set us back. It's going to take a lot of time. We have to think about the potential negative consequences. But once again, I don't think it's a large movement, large enough to kill the exchanges, either in people or in money. I think it's a small movement. And then my real, if it would be a complaint, and I'm not campaigning against proof of keys day or anything. I'm not trying to take you guys down, but my real thing is that I think that we should focus on a positive message. And this way I want to celebrate the new Bitcoin magazine. Welcome back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin magazine is now covering Bitcoin again exclusively, perhaps admitting they made a horrible mistake covering terrible altcoins and ICOs and whatever else they used to talk about when I didn't read them. But they've got this great article here, 7 New Year's resolutions for Bitcoiners. And what I like about these is they're all positive. Number 1, and this is number 1 with a bullet, teach 5 people about Bitcoin and help them set up a wallet. This is 1,000 times more positive than proof of keys day. This is a great thing that anyone can do. It doesn't cost you money. You don't even have to give them $1 a piece. Like I like to give people a little bit of money. And yeah, it costs me money and I've probably given out, hundreds of dollars and maybe they would have been more or whatever. But no, I think it's super valuable for Bitcoin just to teach people about it, get them to set up a wallet, send them $1, tell them how, hey, I just sent you $1 without the help of a bank, without the help of a corporation, and without the help of a government, right? That's pretty amazing. This ragtag network of Bitcoin miners working with each other can allow you to send value across the world for almost nothing. It's pretty amazing. So I would just say more of this positive stuff. They say you should set up a full node. I think that's great. You could do one with a desktop or a Linux version here. Also, you could buy a little box like the Nodal or the Casa Hodl, one of those, or the Bitseed. All of these things are great. You can just get a little box, plug it into your network, and support the Bitcoin network. Create a crypto will. This is a good one too. Yeah, we're all gonna die someday. It's a bummer. Pamela Morgan has made a great little book about how to plan for the future and how to plan. And most people don't have a plan. So even if you write down on a piece of paper, I want to give all of my stuff to my brother or to my family or whatever, and you say kind of where your stuff is, what kind of exchanges you have, what kind of treasures and ledgers you have hidden around, you can leave that behind and sign it. That's a good start towards a will. If you don't have that, you don't have anything. So it's better to have a piece of paper which is signed and dated than to have nothing. So make a plan. As it says here, get control of your private keys. I support this. They support the proof of keys, but only do it as you feel safe. Get control of like $100 of your private keys. If you don't feel comfortable taking them all off, if you're not very technical, if you're not into the Bitcoin or the Trezor or the Ledger, you don't have to hold them all. Just try to hold some. And finally, it says, go back to Bitcoin roots, read the white paper, go to a meetup. Maybe they could also say, hey, go back and watch an old World Crypto Network episode. Maybe watch some old Mad Bitcoin, stuff like that. A lot of good old videos out there that don't get watched a lot, but still have a lot of value. It's funny. Went back to 2013, watched some of my old videos. You wouldn't believe what I was talking about. I was talking about the Winklevi launching a Bitcoin ETF, and I was talking about China banning Bitcoin. So I think I could play the old episodes and there'd be almost no change from today. We still talk about the same things. We're talking about the price. We were always, oh no, the price has gone from $300 down to $80 or something like that. Everyone was freaking out. The price would go from 120 down to 100, and they'd be like, oh, it's over, time to sell, get out. They also say, challenge yourself to learn something new, do something outside your comfort zone. That's a nice general New Year's resolution. I agree with that. I'd also say, remember that you can Google and YouTube anything, and you can learn things that you don't know. So, for example, I don't know anything about pool filters, but I Googled it. I found a guy who taught me how to change my pool filter, and now I know how to change pool filters. So that was pretty cool. And that guy had all the expertise. He had all the inside knowledge. He's done it 1,000 times. I've done it once, and he was teaching me all the little tricks and everything. It was really cool. She also says you should resolve to be a positive force. So that sounds good. Dan, what do you think about these New Year's resolutions from Bitcoin Magazine?
Well, I think certainly learning is a main thing for certainly an everyday thing for me, and I'm always interested about leveling up. And actually, it was on the turn of the first that I got my full node and Lightning node up. I've been a bit lazy. I should have been running a Bitcoin full node a long time ago, considering I do run terrible shitcoin master nodes every now and then. So I did feel guilty, but now it's up. I've got a Bitcoin full node, Lightning node, and obviously that's with the help of Nodl, because they made it extremely easy to do. They've done a great job with the Nodl, and I've actually been graffitiing Satoshi's place every now and then. Every here and there. But also the main thing is that what I'm going to do this year and soon is to set up a Lightning node, but without using the Nodl box. So go that one step further and kind of learn from a code perspective, and slowly growing my knowledge of Linux as well, which is I always keep on putting off. But it's a great thing learning about Bitcoin, blockchain, and every day I learn something new, and every day I'm amazed by something in the Bitcoin sphere. So, I think learning is definitely a key resolution for me this year, and I think it should be for everyone, because the more knowledge we have, the better decisions we can make.
I think that's a really good resolution, Dan. We should learn about the Lightning Network. I've read a lot about it. I've met the people that build it and so on and so forth, but I haven't really used it. Just be total public with that. I did do that test one. I had some testnet Lightning, and I made my own little Lightning node, and I was on the way to using some testnet Lightning, but unfortunately, no one was using testnet Lightning by the time I got to that point. They would all switch to mainnet. So now I have to wait, and I have to get a mainnet wallet, and I have to figure that out. I did hear recently that you can do, well, I guess I don't accept it yet, but you can do Lightning Network transactions now on Tallycoin. Tallycoin at tallyco.in is a free fundraising platform. You just bring a Bitcoin address and your goal. I'm trying to raise $2,000 to fly home from Frankfurt and Malta. I'm still stuck there. Mad Bitcoins is stuck in Frankfurt and Malta until we can get him home. We've got 37% towards our goal thanks to a 0.1 donation we received a couple weeks ago. Thanks to your support, and thanks to everybody else who supported us. But yeah, I'll go ahead and activate this later today. I'll figure this out. But DJ Booth has added Lightning to Tallycoin, so you can donate in Lightning. But I think Dan's got a good point. Everyone's resolution for the new year should be education. Specifically, we want to learn about Lightning Network. We want to learn about something that we don't know, which is a good chance to screw up. So I'll try to make some help videos, and I'll try to screw up as much as I can, so that I can teach you guys, and so that we can learn from my mistakes and from potential mistakes that you might make. I know when I did my Lightning demo, I managed to skip a line in the help file, and it kept not working because of that. And the people in the chat were like, no, you're skipping the line again. And for whatever reason, it was indented or something, and I couldn't see it. And I read fast and stuff. But yeah, so I think we all make those mistakes. We all need to follow step-by-step help files. And it's interesting stuff. Checking out the chat, I asked everybody to vote. You can vote now. Should we crash all exchanges who do fractional reserve Bitcoin? Yes or no? 23 Uvos said yes. Jeremy said just crash Coinbase. Coinbase breaking up would be a good thing for Bitcoin. I think that's going to be a tough order. Coinbase is a billionaire unicorn. And while they don't seem to have much of a business strategy or any loyalty to Bitcoin at all, they are rapidly focused on adding new altcoins to get those exciting new altcoin fees and to get you to trade. And remember, every time you buy or sell on an exchange, they win. So as long as you're playing the game, buying and selling, they're winning. So let's see what everyone else says. Same for me says yes. We've got our friend from Japan. Hello, Japan. And Dolphin says he thinks that Strip Chat offers an option to use Lightning Network. That sounds good, although I think you're going to have a hard time getting a girl to take her clothes off for pennies. Even if you don't throw the pennies at her, it'll be quite painful. Shirley Singleton says yes as well. So pretty much a resounding series of yeses. While I do think it's a good thing to promote the idea that we could accidentally cause a bank run and destroy the Bitcoin ecosystem, I also think it's a very small movement. It's unreasonable to say that we'll really cause a bank run. Also, personally, I don't have the funds to pull out of an exchange to kill it. I don't think anybody does anymore. Maybe Trace. But yeah, the Proof of Keys Day. Everyone's in support. Dan, what do you think? Surprised by the Bitcoiners or just typicals? Yeah.
I know. I can't decide. I'm still on the fence because I love it as an idea, but I just worried that exchanges aren't as transparent as we'd like them to be. You know, and maybe it's FUD. Maybe I'm being broken in by the FUD from about people rejecting ETFs because exchanges are manipulated and terrible and blah blah blah. Despite the fact, of course, that the Danske Bank, AML, money laundering alone, was more than double the entire crypto market cap. So obviously, they've probably still got a few things to fix in the traditional banking area before they can really shake a stick at Bitcoin. But it just worries me. I don't want to see 2014 again.
All right. Well, next year, Dan will be out here with a Viking hat on, screaming about how many exchanges we're going to take down this year and how great it is and how Proof of Keys Day is the best things ever. Oh, he's got a Viking mug right there. He's ready. Yar. But yeah, it's a tough one to get behind. I know what you guys are saying. I know it sounds all good and everything, but no, it's tough. I'm not surprised that the people are behind it. They're saying yes. At least it makes the exchanges double check themselves with the possibility. I would say agree with that. It's also possible though that they've created a system to survive this, because on the other side, let's imagine if you were an exchange right now and you're like, well, they're rallying this and it's not very big, and you're worried maybe next year, somebody actually puts some money into this thing, actually makes a web page, actually pays for advertising or pays for something, or, like Roger Ver does with Bitcoin.com, where he helps out his own ecosystem. He funds the whole damn thing. Maybe somebody like that will do that next year, and maybe it'll be more successful. So if I was an exchange right now, I'd be talking to Blockstream and I'd be getting that liquid network working in the back end. And basically what a normal bank does when they have a bank run is they borrow money from other banks. And this actually happens every night. As the bank closes out their accounts, they say, well, we have this much and we need this much. So they call up the Federal Reserve and they have this nighttime deposit window, and the Federal Reserve gives them money and the bank is solvent overnight. Then they open up again, they pay back the Federal Reserve with interest, and then they're unsolvent during the day, and then they settle again at night and they become solvent again. So if I was a Bitcoin exchange, I would look to do the same thing. And I would look to borrow money from bigger Bitcoin exchanges so that something like HitBTC can survive, maybe getting the money from Coinbase. Coinbase gets interest, HitBTC gets to live, the ecosystem survives. And that's what I would focus on to be ready for next year if I was an exchange, just playing devil's advocate here.
I think it's a very good point from Jason's works, though, that it does make them double check themselves. And whilst they might literally have already booked their Bermuda tickets and just be literally waiting by the door until the end of the 3rd of January going, shit, have we got enough? No, quick, jump on the flight. I do think it's a good idea for them to be kind of have the fear put in them. That, you know, imagine that if you are an exchange that's acting nefariously, then you've had a bit of time to go, whoa, this could completely screw us. We don't actually, you know, we're not a genuinely bad exchange, but you know, we may operate a bit oddly. But this, I'd rather continue than destroy the exchange. Thus, I'll go into, you know, extra measures to mitigate any risks.
It is an interesting idea that maybe it would cause otherwise solvent exchanges to just jump ship. If you were looking for a reason to leave and you're like, well, we made a lot of money, you have two reasons. One, you have that like $10 million point where you're like, oh, we crossed the $10 million point, shut it all down, put it all in a pile, let's get out of here. The other one is maybe you're like, we're never going to reach the $10 million point because those rascally kids and their proof of keys day, maybe we'll just take 3 and run off with the 3. So that is funny that it could cause not an insolvency, but just a flee and people breaking down and inside jobs and all that kind of thing. So there's a lot of stuff out there. We did briefly mention Roger Ver, and I don't have the article up for this, but let's go ahead and open it up and talk about it. And remember, you guys in the chat can tell us about it right down below in the chat. We're reading the chat. Also, if you want to Skype us on World Crypto Network, all one word, or 518-600-1949. We'll take your calls right here. It's January 2nd. It's not quite New Year's Day, but it still feels like it. I didn't show up to work yesterday either. So, but we're here today, and let's talk about what Roger's been talking about recently. And maybe this could even turn him around. I've always thought and hoped, believe that there's still hope for Roger Ver. Maybe I'm a sucker that watched the original trilogy Maximalist Star Wars too many times, but there's good in him, right? I believe there's, Roger had many good ideas in the beginning, then he had some bad ideas. Maybe he can go back to these good ideas. And what he's been talking about recently is that Roger received a letter from Ross Ulbricht, the alleged Dread Pirate Roberts, who's in prison right now for running the Silk Road, essentially a drug-selling website which allowed people to trade large amounts of money for large amounts of cannabis without any violence at all. Pretty amazing, pretty embarrassing to our anti-drug government, our drug warriors, as well as clearly in violation of many of the United States laws, whether or not you disagree with them, clearly in violation. But non-violent, all those other kind of things. But Ross's end of the hit, we could talk about the hit and all those things, but I think we've covered it. But yes, Ross is in jail. He's been in jail, I think, about 6 years now, 6 Christmas. And he's pretty much given up on the legal system for helping him. He had not a very good trial. They weren't allowed to bring into evidence that the federal agents who investigated him stole money from him, millions of dollars. So they were corrupt. That the hit that they framed him with, they framed him. It wasn't a real hit. They faked it. And then they brought it into the case, but they didn't charge him with the hit. So he was not charged with the violence, but he was painted with the violence. All of these things could have led to a mistrial, could have led to a retrial, could have led to other normal, traditional legal options, but failed. He's lost his appeals. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to appeal to the Supreme Court. It doesn't look like he's going to see any legal reprieve, and that he's going to spend, I don't know, something like 6 consecutive life sentences in jail. So he's reached out to Roger Ver, previously, formerly Bitcoin Jesus, a very wealthy man, a man who can do things, and he'd asked Roger to campaign for him to get a pardon from Donald Trump, a presidential pardon. I myself, I've posited that, yes, the presidential pardon is the only way for Ross Ulbricht to get out of prison. I do not believe that it's coming this term. I saw it more of, unfortunately for Ross, I see 10 to 20 more years in prison. I see the entire conversation that we're having in in this political space, we're having a conversation about the drug war. Marijuana is being legalized across the United States. In Canada, it's already legal in the entire country, and across the entire world, people's attitudes towards drugs and drug wars are changing. This is good for Ross Ulbricht. This is his chance for a pardon. If that attitude continues, if it goes up, I don't see it as being ready right now. Unfortunately, now let's go through it. Okay, so Donald Trump's a complete wild card. He does whatever he wants, very clearly. So there is a possibility that he could pardon someone, although I think we'd be looking more for bank pardons, criminal pardons, stock pardons, insider trading pardons, people that he knows already, right? He's going to pardon those people because he doesn't care about their crimes. Unfortunately, if he did pardon Ross Ulbricht, who ran a drug website, I think the media would completely destroy him, on both sides. Right and left would both say. The right would say this is not good law and order. The left, it's tough. I mean, maybe it would be a rare occurrence of the left agreeing with Trump. But looks like we're getting a call. Let's see what's going on here. Loud microphone, yes. Hello, caller. You're live on the World Crypto Network. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Mark Benjamin. I've been watching the crypto space for a long time, and I'm a fan of a lot of podcasts, and I'm glad for your positive message to more bringing people together in the space rather than like tearing up what we currently have.
So you would not be in favor of everyone withdrawing their money from the exchanges?
I'm also in favor of everybody withdrawing everything from the exchanges. Just to see what happens.
Well, we're definitely going to see what happens. And I don't think it's a large enough movement to be afraid. And if I was an exchange, I would get ready for next year with the liquid system and a backup plan and such. But yeah, I don't think we should just destroy everything we have. And I think there's a lot of ways we can work together with the exchanges, and we do work together. I know I certainly bought my first Bitcoins on an exchange. I mean, it's a pretty common thing. They're pretty useful in a lot of ways. But what do you think?
Actually, about 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first question has more to do with cryptocurrencies that are taking the currency part seriously, or at least have a use case. Like if we're talking, and I'm talking about relatively smaller cap, like I'm thinking of Dash, I'm thinking of Digibyte, I'm thinking of, hell, even EOS to a certain extent. People who are at least trying to get things like to a real, like make it real, make their dream real, if that makes sense, instead of trying to get just cash. What are your thoughts on these? And should they like kind of collaborate a little bit more to spread more ideas, or a bit more fluidity, or like a little bit more communication between those kind of projects, including Bitcoin Core, of course?
Well, it's interesting because in some ways they're making their currency more real, but in other ways they're just using the power of marketing and advertising. To say that there's serious Dash merchant adoption going on in Venezuela is a bit questionable when you see the value of Dash moving so much. And yes, the value of Bitcoin moved as well, but not as extreme. So those extreme falls and rises could really wipe you out if you were in Venezuela and you had no other options, and you converted your money into Dash and you went to Burger King to buy food with Dash. And by the time you get there, you can't afford a Whopper. That's a disaster for you. It's a disaster for Dash. So it's very negative. As far as working with Bitcoin Core or who would be the best currency, certainly in my opinion, I'm in favor of sound money. I think sound money is a good idea. And what I like about Bitcoin is the way the system's been configured, 21 million units, the deflationary halvening structure, less and less Bitcoin being produced. I like that. I think that's the best. So when you have another system, maybe with a pre-mine, maybe with the ability to print more coins, maybe with a questionable start, stuff like this, it becomes harder, at least in my mind, as a traditionalist or maximalist or whatever, for them to compete with Bitcoin.
That's a fair stance to take. That's kind of why I kind of added EOS last one. I'm more focused. I of course Litecoin's technically in there, but when I talk about using it as cash, I'm talking as like the sheer willful attempt, as in you're looking at how things going, and you might have different ways of going about it, but you're taking it seriously rather than most of the ICOs that just said, "Hey, I have a dream. Let's see what blows up," or "Hey, let me get some money out of you." I like looking at things that projects along that ilk. And on the note of cooperation, my second question has more to do with podcasts. Similar to yourself, I've been paying attention to. I guess is your podcast more technically focused or news? Like what's happening in like sheer updates on Bitcoin Core, or what's happening on the technicals and stuff like that? Or is yours more like the news updates of the day? Because I've been looking at Crypto Zombie, a Modern Investor, and other crypto YouTubers that, at least I, in my opinion, take their job seriously. And yours also is within that group. I've been paying attention to you guys a little more and more, and trying to get what I can. As a guy that can't afford one Bitcoin, my current goal is getting 0.1 Bitcoin this year.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of new podcasts out there. We've been doing this since 2013, so we're one of the older podcasts in this space. I used to do the Mad Bitcoin show before this. I think there's a lot of different uses and ways to use these podcasts. There's a lot of them. Sadly, they're mainly kind of pump and dump podcasts. They're like, you should buy this, or I bought this and became a millionaire, how you can save money and how you can make money on this. And so they're very successful, a lot of people with that strategy. But I find that to be kind of empty and void of actual information. We do have more of a technical approach here. A lot of our shows maybe are too technical. So people watch the first minute and then they change it. I think that if you stick with it, you can still learn stuff there. You can pick stuff up. Like I was saying with the pool filter, we can become better at things that we don't know how to do. This show here, Bitcoin Talk Show, is more of an open general show. Anyone can call in with any kind of opinion. So it'll waver. We'll have someone very technical, or we used to have my friend Max from Germany would call in with some economic information. He knows a lot about that. Some people know a lot about trading. But I think you've got a good strategy to go to multiple people and to take it all with a grain of salt. Don't just trust one crypto guru and think that the prices are going up because he says it or she says it.
I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. And I hope you guys have a blessed New Year. And my last thing would be just, some podcasts that you might want to I'd like to see like a collab or maybe a talk, like you guys can talk to each other, because I like to see ideas flowing from one place to another and seeing how maybe bouncing off each other to make something happen. So if you don't mind, I already noted Crypto Zombie, and is more so a news podcaster, but he takes he's on the kind of like the altcoin buzz, the crypto candor, just people that try to educate the normie, like Crypto 99, Crypto Zero. And then there's people who try to teach. I'm going to use that very explicit, like technical analysis, or very technical like you guys, like Data Dash, Crypto Neko, Crypto Neko Z, my God. And others that I can't get off the top of my head. And Max, it is crazy. And of course, I listened to a couple of solo crypto news articles. So I just like to see people like shout out to good newscasters, the ones that you know of, so that like people at least won't get scammed by the people that are trying to pump and dump things, just to get that information out there. Like, hey, just so you know, this one's real, or in my perspective is real. If you have some yourself, like you remind me of Off the Chain, podcast that I just started listening to a certain extent. So if you have some that you know of, I'd like to hear them.
Sure, definitely. Thanks for the list. Let's keep it going. There's plenty of room in this space. It's a big ecosystem. I think there can be a lot more podcasts, and yeah, I'd like to talk to all of them. It might be fun. Maybe we can do some interview. Maybe people just let us know in the chat what other crypto podcasts do you enjoy. I mainly focus on making this one, so I'm not that much into watching the other ones. Not anything bad against them, but it just kind of distracts me from trying to make this one. And like, I wanted to talk about the HitBTC thing with you guys, and now that we've talked about it, maybe I would check out some other people's coverage on it. But thanks so much for the call, and give us a call anytime.
All right, have a great day.
All right. And it was interesting, the caller also brought up Litecoin. I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about Litecoin because they did something interesting recently. Litecoin sponsored a UFC event. They put the word Litecoin on the mat. When people were getting punched and stuff on the ground, you could see the word Litecoin. Dan, do you think this will be successful? Do you think any of the UFC people saw someone getting beat up over a Litecoin sign and then went out and bought it or even Googled it?
Well, what I would say is that my mum probably felt like one of the UFC people on the mat because she bought Litecoin last year at like $300. So I'm not going to take any blame for that. But maybe I was just a bit too enthusiastic about crypto as a whole. But at the end of the day, any advertising is kind of good, I suppose. Whether you believe in Litecoin or not, it gets just as much fun as anything else. And I think that maybe Bitcoiners sometimes have a bit of a soft spot for Litecoin because it's one of the longest standing. But then obviously true maximalists hate it. But at the end of the day, I think Litecoin's pretty cool. I mean, I think it's cool they're getting out there and spreading the word. Litecoin doesn't tend to be associated externally as a nefarious coin, etc. So if it's not being kind of put on a pedestal of naughty, then why not spread the word?
Yeah, there was about 10 minutes there where Litecoin was really useful. We were having political troubles getting the SegWit upgrade on Bitcoin, so they put the SegWit upgrade on Litecoin, and we got to see that it worked fine and that it was better and all those things. And for a very short amount of time, Litecoin was technologically more advanced than Bitcoin. But that's about it. I'm not sure how useful it is for anything anymore. And all these ideas, and we heard it from the caller about, Dash or Litecoin or Digibyte promoting themselves as currencies, promoting themselves as something that you can use and that you can send around, and it's a store of value and all these other things. I'm not so sure that's a good idea. If you look at currencies and if you look at networks, it makes sense to put all of your arrows behind the same target. Right? There's that classic battle thing, Napoleon, all these other people. We're going to combine our forces. We're going to strike the enemy together where he's weakest, right? The reason that keeps happening is because it keeps working, right? TCP/IP, the network we use for the internet, no one said it could do video streaming, email attachments, images, live teleconferencing, all the other things that we take for granted now. If they said TCP/IP could do, they said it would break it. They'd said we need multiple internets. We need another internet just for video conferencing because you're going to screw up the real internet. And then meanwhile, the pornography industry, all these other things, they start secure servers, they get Visa cards, they get streaming, they get pornography, they get live cam streaming, all these different technologies developed, and TCP/IP just keeps bending and not breaking. I see Bitcoin and money as much the same thing. Why do we have the US dollar as the world's reserve currency? Why do countries like Saudi Arabia sell oil in dollars? Well, it's not just about market manipulation or powerful battleships sitting outside of your city or military power, any of these things. There's a certain usefulness to having one money. As much as it's a total what is it called? I mean, it's a cultural maximalist or cultural Marxist statement or whatever it is to say English is the world's language. Once again, it's useful and convenient, especially for me. Wherever I go, I speak English. Other people do a lot of work to learn English and then somehow can speak it with me. We can now do business all over the world. It's amazing. I'm not saying that this is because English is the best. Maybe French would be better or whatever. But if we had one language and we work together in the same way if we had one Bitcoin, and we work together if we had one internet. There's something to be said about this, and it doesn't matter, you know, if you're on the splitting team or if you were previously on the splitting team but you quit and you came back to this team. There's something about this all coming together at one point that's gonna keep happening. And yes, Bitcoin could fail like Betamax failed, and VHS could rise, and maybe VHS is the point, right? Maybe we're not on the right point, but this idea still remains. Getting behind one point makes us all stronger, makes currency useful.
It kind of shows that it goes along the same line as the natural progression of politics. You know, we've reached the state that democracy is, we believe, you know, democracy is the gold standard, as it were. And because of the fact that it's based on a consensus, it's taking the entire, you know, population and the people who are players in the game and enabling them, empowering them with a vote. And I think the one thing that's cool about Bitcoin, you said about it bending, the internet bending, sorry. And it's very true that people, when I've mentioned a few times that Bitcoin's 10 years old on, and I've stayed away from that statement now, but 10 years old on January the 3rd, people say, oh, it's old, you know, it's old technology. And I'm like, no. What I meant to say was evolved, 10 years evolved. The joy of, or the beauty of switching from, you know, rolling out a block of hardware that's not connected, that's got software that's not connected, the software that's connected, is that you can update that so that the hardware can become better. You can get more efficiencies out of it. And same with Bitcoin. It was rolled out. It's just been improved and improved and improved, and it's an evolved network now. It's not the same as it is, you know, well, exactly the same as it used to be. It's improved, and it's only ever going to improve.
And that's a good point, that it evolved and it's software and it grows and it changes. I've seen a lot of people who maybe they're more conservative in their philosophy. And remember, conservative originally believes this idea kind of things were better in the 50s. Things were better in the past. We had a perfect time in the past, and we must endeavor to both preserve and go back to that past. So there's this idea when the Bcash split was happening, people were saying, oh, Bcash is more like Satoshi's original white paper. And that's to say that, you know, an idea is more like the original Constitution before we added the Bill of Rights, or before we added the 20 other Bill of Rights, or the amendments that we added after the Bill of Rights, that, oh, the original was much better and we never should have changed. And that's a very conservative idea, and it's very difficult to justify in software. Did I like Windows 95? Do I think Windows ME was the high point? We should have all stayed with ME. Like, maybe, yes. But once someone hacks ME and they have a vulnerability, I have to do the security update. And if there's no more security updates for ME or for XP, or Windows 7 is reaching the end of its life in a couple of months here, there'll be no more security updates. And as much as you like Windows 7, it's time to move to Windows 10 or whatever the next goofy number is. This is the same for Bitcoin. It's the same for technology. And I was surprised to see this attitude come out that software should stay the same, or software should never change, or that as genius as Satoshi was, that he had gotten it all correct in his white paper and there was nothing more to build, nothing to add on, no new ideas. So I thought that was strange with the BCH split. And now we've had the other BCH split, where people are now following BCH SV, Satoshi's vision. And I'm shocked and surprised to see Shem Booth Spain right here on the World Crypto Network going off and starting his own Bitcoin SV channel and really promoting it hard on his Twitter. But I do respect what he did by, you know, he did one episode here where he said, well, you know, I'm kind of getting into this thing. And then he went out and started his own channel to do more episodes, similar to, you know, Andy Hoffman falling in love with B Rhodium all over his Twitter, but not really so much here. And if he wants to talk about it on his own channel or on his own Twitter, that's fine, right? And what we can do here is we can explore these ideas. Somebody just said in the chat, they said, yeah, Bitcoin SV channel, so wrecked. So you can have your own opinion about this here. And that's what we're trying to do here. I've seen so much people that are like, yeah, you should silence them immediately. Oh, people are going to get confused and they're going to buy Brodium instead of Bitcoin. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think my audience is smart. If you're, you know, or trying to be smart, right? That old line from Heist where he says, well, what do you do? He says, well, I try to think of what someone smarter than me would do. And then I do that. So as long as you're trying to get better, as long as you're using this as information to think about, and you're not just saying, oh, it's chapter and verse. Mad Bitcoin said B Rhodium's no good, so I'm not buying it. Go do your own research. Don't listen to my voice or Andy or Shem or anybody. Do more research, get 3 or 4 voices, do an average or however you want to do it. Get more information. You don't just have to trust this. So Ed in the chat's asking, what's Andy Hoffman's stance on Bitcoin now? Well, I can tell you, at least from what I saw on the last show he did here, he was very dismayed when Bitcoin broke through the $5,000 barrier. For Andy, that $5,000 barrier, he was calling it the Hoffman line, and he just thought it was the greatest thing. And basically, that lined up to a $100 billion market cap for Bitcoin. And Andy's belief was that banks will invest in something that's over 100 million, but they won't invest in something that's under 100 million. Even if it's like 92 million and we're almost there, they're like, no, 100 or nothing, right? So when it went under 100, Andy lost faith in it and became sad and sold all his Bitcoin, which again, it went to 3,000. So now he's fine. I mean, but everyone's always mad at people that sell, but now we all wish we sold at 15,000 or whatever it is. So whoopsie, right? But so yeah, Andy's a little bummed about Bitcoin. He's not really making shows anymore. So on and so forth. We're getting some comments in the chat. They say Andy's butt hurt about Bitcoin, that it got in his B rectum. And Neil says, so long as you don't listen to Tone Vase, he is the idiot of Bitcoin. So glad he's no longer on WCN. And I don't know that I'd say that. It was nice to have an audience, but unfortunately, I think our audience was mainly full of people looking to see if the price went up or down, and trying to get that inside guru information that's going to make you the master of the charts. And I just don't think that exists. I do think there are trends and there's calls. I mean, you can make a call like Bitcoin's going to 20,000. Then you say when, and that's important. Or you say Bitcoin's going to 1,300, and you say when, and that's important. And what's great is that you can do this great dance. And I've talked to Andy about this because Andy has the expertise going back. He was in the gold market for a long time. Before that, he was in traditional markets. And then he says, yeah, there's always these gurus, and they say something like, I'm short-term bearish, but long-term bullish. And you're just like, how does that work? Like, did you sell at the top? He's like, no, I'm long-term bullish, so I hold forever. And it's like, so you lost all that money too, and I'm supposed to listen to you now? So I don't know about that. I think having a flexible strategy, I think a lot of us did well with HODL on the way up, but we didn't have a plan for what to do when we reached the top. So I think everyone should have a better plan now. Dollar cost averaging in as well as dollar cost averaging out. It's easy to say don't invest more than you can afford to lose, but also don't let your profits grow to be more than you can lose. We need to, next time on the run up, I'm going to tell everybody, take some profits, get 10%, get 5%, get a little piece off the board. And of course, I'll be wrong. Like the damn thing will go up higher than we've ever seen before. And all of our little profit taking will be wrong. But looking at that log chart, and if it happens again, right? I mean, I've been through a couple of these now, and I'm starting to get the hang of it maybe. But yeah, we saw the 1,200 all the way down. I sold nothing. 2,000, 20,000, whatever, all the way down. I sold a little bit this time. So I'm starting to get it. Starting to figure out. But as far as even right now everyone's in this despair. This is the despair. And you're like, I could never buy any. But you watch. I'll bet these are good buys. I don't know. I mean, I'm always wrong. So these are probably bad buys. In a week or two, 1,800 or whatever will be a sweet buy. But somewhere there's a good buy. Somewhere there's a good sell. I don't know where it is, but let's keep looking for it together. And again, just watch multiple sources of information. Don't listen to one person, myself, Shem, Andy, Tone, whoever it is, multiple sources. Go ahead, Dan. I talked a lot. What do you think?
No, I think it's a very good point. People do get hung up on the price and trying to find these kind of gurus that will give them an easy ride. But I mean, if I was to say my honest opinion, I'm not dissing on any traders, anyone in particular, or just any technical traders in general. But I from my generalized anecdotal experience, it does seem like a bit of a kind of what's the word? A confirmation bias game where you throw out a lot of predictions and then people remember the ones that hit. and you know, you may not delete your old predictions, but maybe some people find them that are wrong. But ultimately, people remember oh, you know, I called it, and they may have some massive skill to it, and there may be a huge thing that I'm not understanding. But it does seem like there's a lot of if you throw out enough predictions, you'll get enough hits. It's kind of the hits and misses things, isn't it? People remember the hits and forget the misses.
It's also all about following the trend, right? When we were on the uptrend, it was easy to say the price is going up, we're on the uptrend, and then whatever happened, we switched, we're on the downtrend. Now it's easy to say the price is going down because we're on the downtrend. What's hard to do is to find that point when we switch, right? There's that middle point where you're like, maybe we're up, maybe we're down. And I think what you have to do is just make a bold choice either direction and stick with it. And then you'll be bold, and you'll be boldly wrong, or you'll be boldly right. And people will remember only the right decisions. I think you're right on that.
But one tactic that I was going to use that I thought this is a great idea was, I think it's Fluffy Pony. That's or I don't know directly. Someone mentioned that this technique's either, but like sell 5% every time it hits an all-time high. Amazing idea, brilliant idea. In a bull run, I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of some of these all-time highs for a long while. So you won't be selling any of your 5% for a bit, unfortunately. But I mean, the main thing is that, as you said, as long as you don't put in what you can afford, as long as you put in only what you can afford to lose, so that you're not selling in desperation. And I think, I'm not going to lie, I made some silly decisions over the last year. And I could have been, much better off had I've not, made certain decisions. But the fact is that as long as you're kind of not putting yourself in a situation where you're selling where you just because you need to, which is usually, funnily enough, when everything's going badly, and you're at least taking some profit along the way. And there's actually a really good film called Gold. I don't know if you've seen it, with Matthew McConaughey. Quite a good film. So essentially, I won't give too much away, but they go and find gold in the air, or try to find gold in the jungle somewhere. And essentially the stock goes through the roof, and then perhaps troubled times hit, and the guy walks into the Matthew McConaughey's office, and he says, there's a bit of a problem. Tell me you sold some. And he was like, and he's like, tell me you sold some. And he said, I just thought it was going to keep on going up. And do you know what? I've tweeted that twice before the big crash. Twice I tweeted it. And I didn't learn from my own mistake of going.
That's the thing. Even when you're saying the right advice, you can't learn from it. I was telling you, I was like, don't overinvest, all the stuff. And like, I didn't have that thing where your profits got bigger than you could afford to lose, and that when you lost all your profits, and it was horrible. So yeah, everyone needs to watch. I agree with that 10% at the top thing. I think someone in the chat just said they had recently gotten out into Tether, and of course the Bitcoin price started going up immediately. The thing I would say to that is don't go 100% in and out. Go 70-30, go 50-50, go 90-10 even. Put 10% still in, so that like you're out, you're like, I'm safe, I'm in Tether. You got 10% in Bitcoin. Then you could be like, well, at least I made 2% on my 10%, or whatever it is. At least there was a little profit there. And if the thing jumps, because remember, the thing we're looking for is Bitcoin goes crazy up and crazy down, so we stay in the market to get exposure to those things. So if it jumped 30%, at least you'd still have 10% to get that 30% bump on, even if it's not as good. And remember the gambler's fallacy from the movie Casino, with the big gambler, and he's there, and he's got lots of money, and he wins money, and he's like, okay, I'm out. I got $5 million. I'm leaving. I'm out of this casino. And the casino fakes a problem with the airplane to get him back to the casino. Then he gets back to the casino and he starts betting less, right? He's playing not real gambling. He's betting like $100 a hand instead of 1,000 or 10,000. And as Robert De Niro says in the voiceover, he says, for him, now that he's betting 100, it's not so much that he's winning $300, it's that he's losing 700. And that for him, he can't gamble without the action. He has to have that money in there. He has to have the big win and the big loss. And this draws him back to the table, and he gives all the money back to the casino, and then even gives them more. So if you're up, leave the casino, don't go back in, and don't fall to this fallacy where you're like, now that I'm up, I can invest with a bigger roll, and my bigger roll will always get bigger. If you're not taking profits out, your bigger roll could get bigger until you make a bad choice, which is easy to do. Everyone makes bad choices. Even good traders make bad choices all the time. And the question is, how much of your roll do you lose? And that's why you also have these ideas on going down. How much can you lose before you have to sell? How much can you lose before, all of this hodl thing goes away? And that's why I think the hodl, it was good on the way up, but bad on the way down. And it's very inflexible. So we need something more like hodl plus. HODL plus take profits. HODL plus evaluate the situation. HODL plus be freaking reasonable. But once again, I do suggest people keep jobs. Keep your job. Get a job. Having a job is good. It's good to have a job. You don't try to live on your crypto, even if it goes up a lot. And if it goes up a lot and you try to live on it, sell it for cash and then live on the cash. One to know. Dun 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 dun. They say in the chat, never bet purple on roulette. I was just talking about gambling games yesterday. It comes up a lot because I'm in Vegas now. I'm not a fan of gambling. I think it's mainly stupid. I like to play board games, things like that, where I have some involvement in it, where if I play well, I win. If I play badly, I lose. I like that. The thing to know about a slot machine or even about dice roll or flipping a coin is the coin has no memory. We humans believe falsely that the coin has a memory. There's a great scene, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, where they flipped a coin, they flipped it 50 times, and each time it was heads. And they're like, my God, the next one's going to be heads. It's been 50 times in a row, 50 heads. It's going to be heads. And the truth is, the coin has no memory. So whether it's a slot machine, whether it's a dice roll, whatever it is, you think, oh, it's due for a 6. A 6 is due, or this slot machine's going to hit because I played it for 90 minutes consecutively. No. The coin has no memory. So very important stuff. All right, Dan, I think we've been going for an hour. We've got a good chat going right here. Not getting a lot of calls. Maybe we'll do some more news stories. Maybe we'll get some calls. I saw you put the thing in. You can call us now on Skype at World Crypto Network or at 1-518-600-1949.
One thing well, we're talking about learning has been a bit of a theme. I've actually been checking out Wasabi. So I think Max put me up. Well, he put me up to this. It really sort of got me interested, and so I've recently been using Wasabi. And I think if you're interested in just fiddling around with wallets, check it out. I'm using it on a Mac. It's got built-in Tor and CoinJoin, which are obviously really cool features. But yeah, if you're up for learning something, download Wasabi, give that a go. Try if depending on your ninja skill level, try setting up a Bitcoin node or a Lightning node from scratch, or get a nodl. I think there's some on order soon, or a Casa. Other products also may be available. Yeah, just try and do something. Set yourself a task and say, right, I want to know how Lightning works, and I want to set up a Lightning node. I just, and set yourself a task and see if you can do it. Yeah, and throw yourself in at the deep end as well. I'm not saying chuck a load of Bitcoin on there, or in any way. Definitely don't risk a load of Bitcoin on Lightning Network, but just pick something that intrigues you. And everything in Bitcoin is a rabbit hole. I thought, I'll get my nodl, I'll set it up, and then happy days, there it is. I can use Lightning payments, but instead I'm going on Satoshi's Place and doing a bit of graffiti, and I'm finding different ways to connect. And if you do set up a Lightning node, or you're going to set one up, either get me on Twitter on @Cryptopoly, and we can be a channel together. We can create a channel.
Yes, learn about the Lightning Network. Learn about things that you don't know. I think that's a good way to go. A good focus for the new year. They're saying in the chat, by statistics, the lottery and gambling is set for the player to lose and the house to win. And that's why it is so distressing to see all these gray-haired old people with walkers and oxygen machines desperately playing the slot machines, thinking that they're going to win if they just stay there long enough. I know a woman recently won $1 million on a slot machine at the Cosmopolitan. She played for 90 minutes consecutively. She won on her 960th coin, or whatever you want to call it. And it's not worth it. It's not like that one got lucky, but really it's just a random number generator. It's like sticking your hand in a fan. You just stick it in and stop it. and it stops right there, and that's it.
Or cuts your hand off.
Exactly. Much more
But
likely.
the best thing is not to try and to do something sensible, like try and create a fan contraption without just putting your hand in a fan. I don't know.
Would be
That's
better.
a terrible analogy, but you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, I think investing in Bitcoin or things that are new, things like Facebook stock when it came out, things that are early, it's much better to invest. Even you might lose all your money as well, but at least you didn't lose your money because the odds were bad. Things like the roulette machine, they put that 0 and that double 0 on there. You'd be better off just flipping a coin. At least flipping a coin is fair. You don't see any flip a coin slots in a casino because it's fair for both sides, heads and tails. That's it. They could just there's no extra way to make money. Although they could have sucker bets on the flip a coin machine. They could have like 3 heads in a row, 3 tails in a row. You could bet these kind of. Remember, all the side bets are for suckers. Don't take any side bets. But let's just do a little bit more of the news before we close it out today. We're going to check in on the mainstream media and say what they say about Bitcoin. We've got a positive article from Forbes. Bitcoin adoption could be boosted by surging China demand. That's good. We often have these kind of articles. We've been covering the China ban for 5 or 6 years now. On the other side, the Conversation says 5 reasons Bitcoin could enter a more extreme death spiral. What I like about this headline, it already assumes that Bitcoin's in an extreme death spiral, and we just need to enter a more extreme one. Let's see.
Dead, I heard.
It's totally
I've heard
dead.
it's already dead, isn't it? I'm surprised it's still. Why are we even talking about it?
How could it be in a spiral? So they say the rising cost of mining. But this is a constant in Bitcoin, right? The difficulty is always going up. It's always harder to mine unless they develop a new chip. And if they develop a new chip, they sell it for more money because it's a new chip. So that seems pretty standard. Regulatory concerns. This is a common one from the mainstream media. They're worried that someone's going to regulate Bitcoin. It'll somehow affect the way that Bitcoin works. Bitcoin doesn't care. The beauty and the meaning of this whole system is that the regulatory people have to adapt to Bitcoin because Bitcoin is not going to adapt to them. If some country here, Switzerland, Malta, China, US, whoever it is, if they put down a rule saying that the average block time now must be 12 minutes instead of 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. They don't have any way to affect the average block time. They don't have any way to actually affect the way that Bitcoin works. The only thing they can do is control where the fiat money goes in and out of the Bitcoin system. So yes, they can make it harder to buy Bitcoin for cash, harder to sell Bitcoin for cash, but they can never stop you from trading Bitcoin with your friends or your family, using it for your business, paying a designer overseas to redo your website. As long as the designer is able to receive the $100, cash it out for pretty close to $100 within an hour or two, Bitcoin works. If the value doesn't go up to $1 million, sure, nobody gets rich, but you can still send $100 through the internet to pay for a good or a service without the help of any government, corporation, or bank. So it's still pretty impressive. Yeah.
Well, what's interesting about the regulatory concerns, I seem to be, getting the opposite. Maybe these, in terms of the vibes I'm getting from certain sort of articles, and for example, so there's one it's on Bitcoin.com, but it's about Japan's FSA that have now proposed a new rule set around regulating crypto, and that's not a concern. That's an extreme positive, I think, because regulation means that it's being taken seriously, and that big players will probably start to get involved a lot more once there's a lot better framework around it. So regulation is always it's a difficult one, because let's be realistic, that it would be great with this utopian idea of all Bitcoin, no regulation. But in order for it to be taken seriously and for people to be feel protected, there must be some regulation. So I actually see regulation quite positively, I think. Well, obviously there's the threat of regulators banning it, but I just think that with Japan, I believe, and Australia have recognized Bitcoin as a currency now. I think, or maybe I may remember that wrong, or at least I did read that Australia, you can buy Bitcoin in post offices. Maybe someone can confirm that or dismiss that. But yeah, regulation is bad but good.
Bad but good. They also say here that market manipulation is going to kill Bitcoin. Once again, not really our fault. Bitcoin's a small market, so it is relatively easy to manipulate. Anyone that has, 100 million, 10 million, whatever it is, a certain amount of money, you can manipulate a smaller market because it's so small. The only way we can get rid of this is by continuing to grow Bitcoin and the other markets so that there'll be more money, so it'll be harder to manipulate the market. This is really back to number one with the power consumption. She says power consumption and mining is going to kill Bitcoin. And finally, industry skepticism. What do you think, Dan? You're going to chip in there. Go ahead.
So yeah, on the what was before power consumption? Was that
market manipulation?
Yeah, well, I think that even as Bitcoin grows, the biggest threat, I think, to market manipulation in Bitcoin is literally the existing financial institutions that have all sorts of, stashes of cash that they can use. So the bigger Bitcoin gets, the harder it is for them to manipulate. And I know that's the same for the kind of normie non-coiner world. But the fact is that realistically, banks have got the money to be able to do the most damage, unfortunately. So yeah, I do see that as a risk, but not from market manipulation internally. I think it's the biggest risk is external market manipulation. And not just from that. I mean, there was the Bloomberg thing, the absolutely absurd Bloomberg thing that they pay better money for articles that move markets. Isn't that like literally market manipulation? And to say that that's a threat to Bitcoin, it's like saying that an asteroid is a threat to Bitcoin as much as it is to the banks.
Well, and remember the other beautiful side to this is because they're constantly printing fiat currency and they could just print more of it. Everyone's afraid, well, what if they printed, $100 million and they use that $100 million to buy $100 million worth of Bitcoin? Well, in the short term, they would have a lot of Bitcoin and they would be very powerful. But in the long term, the value of their own currency would go down because they printed $100 million worth. So as a Bitcoiner and as a maximalist or a traditionalist or whatever you want to call it now, bring it on, right? I hope they print 100 million. I hope next year they print 100 million more. And I'll bet the first time they get 100 Bitcoins, and the second time they get 80 Bitcoins, and the third time they get 60 Bitcoins. And they keep overinflating their economy, but they can never overinflate the Bitcoin. No matter how much Bitcoin the banks and the companies and the governments buy, no one's ever going to print them anymore. There's no mechanism where we can just print more Bitcoin.
But I did read that MasterCard have either registered or had a patent approved for fractional reserve Bitcoin. That was a while back. I think it was MasterCard.
Sure. They could do that internally, but they'd never really have the Bitcoin. So it would never really reach the external market. So within their system, they could have a fractional reserve system, and you could believe that you had Bitcoin, but then not have them, which circles back nicely to proof of keys day that we were talking about. If they were holding those things, and I've seen some people complaining online, they're like, yeah, all the Bitcoiners want these ETFs, but at the same time, they have proof of keys day and they want everyone to take their money off exchanges. And once again, it's just a question of complexity. There's complexity in the market. So people have money that hasn't been taxed that's in their 401ks. Right now, you can't use that pre-tax money to invest in Bitcoin. So if we had a Bitcoin ETF, while on one side, it would mean that, yes, a bank or a large institution is holding a large amount of Bitcoin keys. They could be hacked. It could be a problem. And also they, own them and they're not going to take them off their network and that kind of thing. So there's downsides, but it would open up a giant new pool of capital of people who could then invest their retirement funds. So it's not an unreasonable thing for Bitcoiners to say, we want people to invest their retirement funds, even if they're not capable of holding their own private keys with that money. You could still buy your own Bitcoin with your active dollars that aren't pre-tax, and you could use that to hold your own private keys. So I think, yes, you can have both ideas in your head at the same time. It's not cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm. On the power consumption part, I would recommend that that people go and search for a an article. I think it's actually the second part of a report from CoinShares, who investigated this. And there's a lot of mining myths, especially around the percentage that is from renewable sources, because oversupply is the cheapest electricity. And where say a dam is usually geographically located a bit further away from proper built up, big built up civilizations, it has a lot of oversupply. And so there's what they found in their research over the last year or two is that the actual there is centralization still, in China, but there was also a lot more energy that's being used from excess renewable energy. And I think that they put the estimate as a conservative estimate as about 77%. So there's some huge myths spiraling around, but check out this report, draw your own conclusions, do a bit more research. But it's definitely worth reading. And it really opens your eyes to the difference between research techniques used by, some dude in perhaps, in a, I don't know, I was going to say a respectable paper, but they're usually not. Let's be honest. It's just lazy reporting. I'm not going to lie. Just check out the CoinShares report.
And it is funny here. Even the article that they link to says Bitcoin's high energy consumption is a concern, but it may be a price worth paying. So yes, some things do cost lots of money, but they are worth paying for. The power consumption argument also never takes into account all of the armored vehicles, all of the vaults, all of the bank tellers, all of the skyscrapers full of bank people working for the bank. It costs a lot of money to run the existing banking system as well. And it's unreasonable and unfair that they never even try to make a comparison. I agree, it's very difficult. I don't believe that that's a reason to not do it. I think your job as a journalist is to actually do the difficult things and to come back with a solution. So
it takes a lot of effort though, reading through stuff, Tom, rather than just plucking figures.
I know it's easier just to link to things and to say, oh, Bitcoin's expensive to mine, so it's bad. And her last point, why Bitcoin will enter a more extreme death spiral. I feel like we're doing a top 10 list here. We go. And it is donuts, washing machines, and laundry. No, it's industry skepticism. That's right. The existing industry. This is much like when the horse and buggy industry had so many problems with those pesky automobiles, and everyone said, oh, horse and buggy, just wait. Just hodl your horse and buggy stock. It's all going to be fine. Everything's going to work out great. Dan, should we listen to the old industry who's telling us we can't have the new technology? Does this make any sense to anybody after all the internet stuff that we've witnessed, after the death of the music industry, the death of the movie industry, everything switching to online streaming, the rise of Netflix?
I think they definitely don't have any bias that would try and lead you away to a better technical solution. Not. Of course, the fact is, you think about the amount of money that goes in FX every day, and the fees that are taken from that. International remittances, that sort of thing. What you're doing is you're taking every transaction that goes into Bitcoin instead of into fiat, or via fiat. Sorry, that's a percentage that they're missing out on. It's literally like you're slowly clawing away at their commission from their FX trades. So a lot of the people that and that's just FX trading. A lot of the systems that are in place, they make people money. There's businesses that run off them, and if something comes up that's going to be a threat to that, then it's not going to be treated lightly. That's why the horse and the cart and the flag situation arose, because they didn't want to be made obsolete, and it was unfortunately going to happen, and it did happen, sadly. So it's sad that these poor banks may not be making as much money as they used to do in the old days. But
somebody think about the bankers. Nobody thinks about the bankers.
Exactly. They've just got a reason to hate on Bitcoin. And they're not just the banks as well. Anyone that's got money in terms of stock shares in those industries that will be impacted, that will be disrupted, they're going to miss out. So why are these people going to be rooting for Bitcoin? Because it's literally eating away at their profit and their own share prices.
And we've talked about this idea with the drug war. If you were a drug warrior working for the DEA or the FBI during the 1970s and 80s, even the 90s, you made huge busts of cannabis and you were a huge hero because you took those nasty drugs off the street. But now, if you look at Canada, the entire country legalizing recreational marijuana, or you look at California, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, a dozen other states, all legalizing not just medicinal now, but recreational marijuana, that really puts into question how good it was that you took all those nasty drugs off the street, right? This screws up your worldview, much in the same way for these bankers who have been doing so good with their credit cards and their banks and their stocks and all their other stuff. If they see this new Bitcoin thing and it comes along and it ruins all that they've ever done with their life, keeping these banks running, then they're going to react badly. They're going to be against it. They can't understand that worldview. So just in the way that perhaps since the 60s, people have been just waiting for the older generations to go away, in the same way now with Bitcoin, we're just waiting for the older generations who don't like technology and they don't like technology taking over their banks and so on and so forth. Maybe they're just going to go away. Maybe some of them will learn. I think a lot of people, once again, I have hope for people. I think you can go from being a no coiner to being a Bitcoiner. It's not that extreme, and that there's hope for people out there. So good stuff. Interesting article. It's fun to disagree with it, even if we don't agree. Finally, we've got some technical analysis from CoinDesk. Says the Bitcoin price suffers the worst monthly losing streak in 7 years. From Omkar Godboll, who doesn't own any cryptocurrency. Maybe he's the smart one. Let's go down to his view. I like this view section. He says, Bitcoin could snap its 5-month losing streak in January. An inverse head and shoulders breakout, if confirmed, would validate the bullish divergence of the RSI seen on the 3-day chart and could yield a rally to $5,000 in the near term. You see, and then he flips and he tells you the other side. The prospects of Bitcoin posting gains in January would drop if prices find acceptance below the December 27th low of 3,566.
Got to cover all them bases.
That's it. He's given us both sides of it. It's going to be sunny and rainy tomorrow. So you should probably bring an umbrella and leave it at home. I was right either way. So good stuff from Omkar Godboll over at CoinDesk. We've got the top 5 worst Bitcoin price predictions of 2018. Maybe we're seeing some accountability now. I'm not so sure. So Tom Lee said $25,000 by the end of the year. We didn't hit it. We were closer to $3,000. Let's see what else we've got. K. Van Peterson from Saxo Bank said the price of Bitcoin would reach $100,000 by the end of the year. We were closer to 3,000. Let's see what else we've got. Novogratz from Galaxy Digital. Again, these are all the old school investor types. They know everything. You know nothing. Bitcoin will hit $40,000 in 2018. And that was not right either. They said $50,000 from the BitMEX chief. And on the other side, people said Bitcoin's going to zero. Joe Davis from Vanguard Management Firm said Bitcoin would eventually become worthless. But see what I like about that is, once again, they're saying he's wrong, but he just said eventually. So I think he's still in the game. Eventually, it could become worthless, or eventually it'll not become worthless. The problem is these other guys.
The universe.
Yeah, don't say end of year. Yeah, there's going to be a heat death of the universe, but not next year. Eventually, there'll be a heat death of the universe. See, I'm always right. With fun stuff from the predicting people. A misunderstanding of this Bitcoin metric may have led to $100 million in misallocated capital. I don't know what metric this is. Let's see. Highly gameable metrics. Looks like one of the markets, transactions per second went up. So maybe it was spam and it confused people. That transactions per second, as it was going up, people thought that was a win. Maybe it was just spam. Interesting stuff from Kyle Torpy over at Coin Journal. And meanwhile, on the other side of the story, Jameson Lopp says that 2018 was the best year for Bitcoin. He's basing this on a lot of technology things and not on the price and the other destruction of everyone's portfolios. So a bit of a tough one. He's being a bit counterintuitive there, which I like, and that's nice. Yes, segregated witness inputs rose from 10 to 40%. The Lightning Network got bigger, so on and so forth. That's pleasant. But yeah, we left behind a lot of wreckage in a lot of people's finances. And almost our last story, Bitcoin mining difficulty adjusts 10% upwards for the first time in months. So we did have a point where it was becoming easier to mine Bitcoin. Less machines were on the network, less powerful machines. But that's over, and it's going back up again. Remember, Max Kaiser famously believes that the price of Bitcoin is directly affected by the miners, and that as the miners keep going up, the price of Bitcoin will keep going up to follow it. Not so sure about that right now, but maybe it'll be true again someday. We have the last story, hacker group pay Bitcoin ransom or will release 9/11 papers. It's pretty unclear to me what the 9/11 papers are here. Some
what they're
people,
saying is they're releasing 9 out of 11 papers. It's not actually
9 out of 11. Yeah,
just 9 out of 11. Yeah,
that's most of them. They're saying there was some litigation. So there was litigations with insurance firms like Lloyd's of London, Silverstein Properties, and Hiscox syndicates. Hiscox, great name. And they're going to publish the files, which may provide answers to some of the conspiracy theories concerning the attack if the demands are not met. They say they have 18,000 secret documents. Sounds like this Hiscox group, some kind of insurance or legal company, had been hacked, and that they got the litigation files related to the terrorist attack. So interesting stuff. I'm not sure who they're asking to pay the Bitcoin ransom. They say unless the Bitcoin ransom is paid, maybe just the company Hiscox. They say publishing insurance-related information isn't going to yield very much. So it sounds like kind of a non-story, but of course we always cover it whenever anyone asks for a Bitcoin ransom, very much in our bailiwick here. Dan, what do you think? Can I get you a Bitcoin ransom? Exciting insurance files. Do you think that they'll leak them? Do you think that it will matter?
Well, it doesn't seem like it's exposing kind of any major conspiracy. It just seems like it's just we're going to dump a load of people's private insurance information.
That does seem a possibility, and that's certainly how I've seen it covered in the mainstream press. The mainstream press is focusing on the fact that I'll bet there's a bunch of personal details, addresses, phone numbers, health insurance, etc. in these files. And they're saying that it shouldn't be released because it's personal information. That's very easy to agree with. It's unlikely that the hackers will redact the personal information as a law firm or another group might.
Yeah, in terms of an actual conspiracy, I've always been a kind of skeptic, as it were. I like listen to Skeptoid and Skeptic's Guide to the Universe and podcasts like that. And so my head's never been in the kind of conspiracy space. I just kind of think that if there was a conspiracy, like a cover up that big, then we'd know about it with significant evidence by now. But then the burden of evidence is always switched back and forth, and absence of evidence is counted as evidence sometimes, and there's all these other sort of logical fallacies in these arguments. But I'd be interested to see the truth, whatever it is. But I'm not sure whether this is just kind of a publicity stunt. But either way, even my mum the other day forwarded me an article saying Bitcoin trader, some well-known guy that I've never heard of, has beaten his wife to death or something, really horrific and horrid sort of event. And my mum was like, this is bad for Bitcoin. And I was like, that's like saying, I don't know, hockey player has, or violinist, or I don't know, like a mother care expert, or you know what I mean? You're literally giving a descriptive that Bitcoin's got nothing to do with this crazy person's done. But yeah, anything where Bitcoin's being used as a ransom or used nefariously is just never good.
Oh, it's always good. It's good news for Bitcoin. It shows that Finally, hackers and criminals and thieves have a great way to take a ransom.
Yeah.
You can take your ransom in Bitcoin, and it's advertising for other people. Are you interested in taking a ransom? Have you considered Bitcoin? These 9/11 paper hackers are using Bitcoin. Maybe you should too. So it's the best advertising for us. I hope we get tied up with these conspiracy theorists some more. But
You could say.
it is concerning to anyone when 3 modern buildings filled with asbestos fireproofing fall to the ground within a free fall speed, all on the same day. As Doug Stanhope, the comedian, famously said, maybe your God takes Tuesdays off. So the physics of it don't add up. All of the other things put to the side, the physics of these 3 buildings falling down in free fall speed doesn't make any sense. It's a great mystery of our time, and I don't know that it'll ever be solved. But you better pay those damn ransom, or we're going to get the insurance files, which I'm sure is going to solve all the problems. But, everything will be released, but we're going to head towards the end of the show here. Just like to ask anyone if you have any extra money in your Bitcoin wallet. Maybe you keep a hot wallet on your phone just for spending. You put a couple $100 in there. Maybe you want to send $10 or $20 to this Bitcoin address. You can help us reach our goal. If 100 people send us $20, we'd reach our goal, and we wouldn't have to fundraise for a trip home for Mad Bitcoin. Bring him home from Europe. Donate now. Or if you've got lots of money in your Bitcoin hot wallet and you don't care about money at all, you could just go ahead and buy the whole fundraiser for about $1,300, and it would be done. And I wouldn't be fundraising for a trip home anymore months after my trip. So we are still trying to close up old debts from last year here on Tallycoin. And you can always join us at the Mad Bitcoins Patreon. Patreon, the only service that makes you get paid less every month. We dropped about 10 patrons. We went down from around $450 a month to $290 a month. We still have 47 patrons. So if there's 3 more people out there that will join, we can get back up to 50. But we are, starting to starve to death here. So we need more thumbs up, more shares, more views, more patrons, and more Bitcoin donations. No pressure, but if you've got the money and you like the show, this is a little like PBS. It's public broadcasting. If you support it, it happens more often. If you don't support it, it happens less often. So thanks again to everybody for your support. I hope many more of you will join. We have 119 live viewers. If everyone gave us $10 right now, that would be $1,200. That would be amazing. We'd almost be done with this fundraiser. So if everyone watching now donated $10, you could try it out. I think we've got one more good quote here from Nem Blockchain. He says, one problem worse for hacking demands would be kidnapping demands. Imagine a movie where you don't have to pick up a bag of money. Bitcoin makes life easier for kidnappers. I'm sure the Coen brothers are going to be on this quick. Almost every one of their movies features kidnapping. So yes, this revolutionizes the kidnapping and ransom industry. Great job, Bitcoin. Sarcasm intended, in case anyone isn't fluent in sarcasm. But yes, we have sarcasm here. We have a large reserve of it. Our national sarcasm reserves are full. Dan, anything you want to say in closing? Where can people check out Crypto Raptor?
So check out Crypto Raptor on at Cryptopoly, CRYPTOPOLY on Twitter. Also, watch out for the extremely cheesy tune that's going to be out tomorrow on celebration of Christmas. Bitcoin
Christmas is good. Christmas counts.
Christmas is good. 10-year anniversary. Well, actually, Christmas was my 35th birth anniversary. So maybe that's what's on my head. But so the birth of Bitcoin was 10 years ago, tomorrow/today, depending on your time zone. So to keep an eye out for the video. And last thing, do something that's a cool little learning activity. And like I said, if you set up a Lightning node, give me a shout and we'll set up a channel together. And even if you've got any issues, I'm still learning. I'll try and help you where I can. So yeah, just DM me on Twitter or say hello. And that's awesome.
And we'll be back tomorrow for Bitcoin's birthday. It's always good to have a good anniversary show and to check that out. Be sure to subscribe down below to the World Crypto Network. Give us a thumbs up and a share. You can donate Bitcoin right here. People are saying happy birthday to Dan, who also shares his birthday with Isaac Newton. We talk about him quite a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
He got wiped out in the South Seas stock bubble, and a lot of us feel a bit
Yeah.
Newtonian these days. The chart shows the chart, it goes up and Newton makes money, but then it goes up even more. All of Newton's friends get rich. Then he gets desperate, re-enters the market at the top. It goes over the top, and he exits later broke for the rest of his life. So let's not be like Isaac Newton. Let's learn about stock bubbles and Bitcoin bubbles. But be sure to give us a thumbs up and a share. Donate some extra Bitcoin there if you've got it. If you've got fiat money, you can subscribe to our Patreon for as little as like $5 a month or $10 a month, something like that. That would be super sweet. You could do that on your credit card, traditional money system. It's a great way to support shows like this that don't take a lot of, we don't take any, altcoin money. We don't take a lot of dirty money and stuff. So we're trying to give you the true opinions here and let you call in and tell us what you think. But thanks to everybody for joining us. We talked a lot about HitBTC, proof of coins. The price of Bitcoin is $3,843. And we'll definitely be back tomorrow. I love Bitcoin anniversary days. It's always fun to do a show. We'll try to get more of the crew here. There's less and less crew these days. Everyone's split off and doing their own projects now, which is, again, not quite as efficient as working together. But best of luck with all that. So, but until next time, thanks so much for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.